My face currently feels like I've been run through by Tom Stewart.
Puts it to the top of the square. Oh, beautiful little fist in there by Dale. Crucial centimetre moments.
He definitely has a bit of the Belcho spirit, as I have a bit of the Belcho spirit.
Hello and welcome back to The Back Pocket, the podcast that certainly wouldn't admit to soiling themselves on their first day of school and walking around with it in their pants until it went stale. I am Jack and I'm joined once again by Alastair.
Yeah.
It's
hello.
amazing how fast news passes.
I was going to say, it's been such a long week that I forgot about that.
Pant poop saga was less than a week ago. We have a new AFL CEO, sort of, kind of, maybe coming up. Confirmed, Andrew Dillon.
Oh, I missed that news too. I was too busy thinking about
Dillon said
Wayne Carey shitting himself.
weren't we all? That's what I do in tell interviews. I say it was too woke, but by the way, did I tell you I shat myself once? He didn't empty it into the toilet. He didn't think to go to the bathroom.
I kind of get it though. As a kid, you can be traumatized.
That is
and,
true.
Mortified.
That is true.
But
I had a lot of trauma as a kid, but I didn't use it to do coke and beat women.
knowing what he has done as an adult, it's hard not to laugh at his plea.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. I only someone like the Herald Sun would publish it.
Oh, that was so strange.
Andrew Dillon, anyway, our new overlord. What I find really funny is that he, in his press conference, said that he asked for advice from Dimitri on how to get the job. And Gil asked Dimitri on who to give the job to. So it's really good to see that the boys' club is still really strong and well and truly in action.
Taken months to convince him, this headline says. Oh, I don't know that man. Anyway,
yeah,
carry on.
He did a bunch of AFL jobs, obviously, for the last decade or so. So there's no real shock. I think some people, mostly Richmond people, are disappointed it wasn't Brendan Gale.
Why?
I'm kind of disappointed
Don't they
it
want
wasn't
him still
Brendan
at
Gale
their club?
because I would have found it funny for them to, obviously not all Richmond supporters, but the ones who have the real conspiracy brain on, trying to justify how Brendan Gale was also out to get them.
Yep.
But unfortunately, that isn't going to happen. But anyway, we had a week of footy.
A week. It took
so
a week.
long.
It took a week.
Imagine if it was a Thursday game. It would have been...
I wouldn't be watching it. I tell you that.
Anyway, my one vote for this week. Oh, you're first. Sorry.
Am I?
Votes.
Sure. My one vote. No one would have picked me saying this. Maybe you might actually. I'm giving my one vote to Jake Kelladajny.
He was so close for me. He had my one vote until this afternoon.
So I've given him one vote, not only because he did have a good performance, and you can say, oh, but Sydney didn't have any players. Regardless,
Still like to have a good game.
Had a great game, but it's also been a body of work. It's been 3 weeks here.
Geelong
Since he came back
so
into that
much better
side,
since he came back.
insane how much he's changed them.
And
if I said that to you 2 years ago, you would have laughed at
no
my
way.
face.
It was funny because I was saying a few weeks ago he's a really important in when he comes back. I've never seen him play like he did on the weekend. He looked so assured. His decision making was just
94% efficiency, Jack.
I saw my dad actually tagged me in a bit from Cameron Ling does one for Geelong, a podcast, and he was talking about Colo's game and how good it was. And there was obviously highlights attached to it. And I was watching some of his kicking by foot, and obviously I saw it when I watched the game.
Yeah.
But seeing it all back to back, unrecognisable from the player from 3 years ago.
Your dad will be pretty happy I gave him a vote then.
So incredible growth from Colo. And I think he did deserve a vote. He played a really good game. I couldn't sneak him in, so I'm glad you did.
Yep. No bias here.
My one vote went to Nick Haynes.
Okay, fair enough.
Who I just thought had a really good game. They really fought in that game. I was really impressed with GWS after a couple of disappointing efforts. I thought they showed a lot of fight against Brisbane. Haynes had 27 disposals at 89. 11 of those were intercepts, 581 metres gained, 4 spoils and 6 pressure acts. But it looked like a bit of the Haynes of old. I think we missed a lot of that last year. But yeah, I was really impressed and happy with his game on the weekend. So happy to give him one.
Yeah, I left Haynes out to put Colo in. So.
Yeah, we're sitting on that same fence, so I get that.
All right, my 2 votes. Richmond fans probably be mad it's not higher. Jaden Short.
Didn't sneak in for mine,
Yeah.
so yep. He was in my special mentions though, so I'll cross another one of those off.
Very easy. 30 disposals,
Really
about
good
80%
game.
efficiency, 9 intercept possessions, 7 marks, 4 rebounds. Literally everywhere, but most importantly was taking a lot of marks across that 50 mark.
They looked so much better with him back.
100%.
It's a bit like I think I highlighted it a bit later in the year last year, but it is looking very similar to last year's Richmond's problem, which was that they fade out of games really badly. Against both Sydney and Melbourne, they were right in it three-quarter time. They both ended up being quite comprehensive losses.
Only they could have faded out in round 1. Where was that?
Yeah, you lost that one. That was the first game they weren't tied yet. But it's not what you want, the time of game where you want to be consistently dropping out.
Yeah.
And look, it's only a few weeks in, it's a small sample size, but it was their biggest problem last year, I thought. So hopefully they can fix that up.
It's probably not helped by the younger players that they're
younger and older. There's not much of
the
the Jaden Short aged players in that middle profile. So I do get that. My 2 votes was James Sicily.
Fair enough.
27 disposals, 9 of those intercepts. He had 10 rebounds, 11 marks, won all 3 of his contested defensive one-on-ones. And what I love to see from a defender, had 4 score involvements despite 0 inside 50s.
It's pretty good.
And 661 metres gained. So a pretty big game from him. Once again, another team that fought really well. I think it's one of those games where people are going to say that, they fought really well and they were plucky, but I think they'd be quietly kicking themselves a little bit about that because they were 2 goals up with, I reckon, 5 minutes to go. And Adelaide are a very good team. Obviously not going to take that away from that goal Fogarty kicked under that much pressure was outrageous. But I think Hawthorn want to have their time again on that game and probably win that because the way they were playing all game, it wasn't like Adelaide lowered their colours. Hawthorn played really good footy. Yeah. A lot of good run through the middle, good pillars at both ends. So
it was really funny because I had no interest in watching that game, but it was all right.
Yeah, and hopefully we get that same result with that Gold Coast Richmond game this weekend. Like pillared in between 2 games that look like absolute rippers. Hopefully that one's all right because
Sunday
it might be the.
Yeah, that's right. We were watching the ad, and they were advertising the other 2 games. They just completely ignored the one in the middle.
Yeah, that's on by the way. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. So that's my 2.
All right, straight and simple. My 3 is Jack Sinclair. Apparently loves to play against Carlton, doesn't he?
He is a freak.
Yeah.
I'll spoil it now because I want to talk about him. He's my 5.
5, okay, all right.
I thought his game was insane. He got 10 coaches' votes, which I helped back me up on that. He was everywhere he needed to be, at every time he needed to be.
Yeah.
Before we jump into his stats, I laughed at something I read today from Tim Watson, who
Bound
said
to be a cracker.
Oh, it was a really good bit. He said,
you know
when people in footy journalism really use projection on the football public, people last week I saw an article saying did Sydney underrate Dawson? No, they didn't. You did, obviously, before now.
They wanted a higher pick for him.
Tim Watson said, and I quote, "We never talk about him as a player. He was the Trevor Barker medalist last year. He was the All-Australian halfback flank last year. Okay. And I know it's not a huge metric, but he's in over a quarter of fantasy teams. Lots of people talk about Jack Sinclair and think about him often.
Has become I wouldn't say maybe not a household name.
No, but for people who know footy, he is an A-list football player. Yep. He's a very good player. Mm-hmm. He's a genuine leader of that club. Don't talk about him. He had a great game. 27 touches, 9 pressure acts, 450 odd metres gained, a whole bunch of score involvements and a score launch. He had 1 inside 50 for the game, and it was a direct goal assist.
We've said this last year. We said it earlier this year on the podcast. His ability to turn his career around from being a unnoticeable small forward to a genuine gun is crazy, and he'll continue to get votes for the rest of the year. I can almost guarantee.
I think so. He was right up there for us last year. Yep. And he will be again because I like that they just keep him in the back line. His heat map, despite the fact that
they did start him in the third in the middle.
He had a couple of centre bounces.
I think that was just to break the Kerno tag.
But there was bits of that game where. So I watched that heat map, and despite the fact that he got the ball all over the ground because he has a massive tank, his heat map was just in the 50, in the middle. So my 3 votes was to last year's winner, Tom Brass.
Okay, I left Brass out.
They were really good in the second half, and I thought he was pretty much the reason. He had 12 intercepts. He had a season-high 7 contested marks for the AFL of his 10 marks. 8 of those marks were intercepts. He had 9 spoils and won 10 out of 11 one-on-one contests.
Where are you getting those stats? I didn't see those stats.
They're on the desktop website.
Oh.
Yeah. And he had 7 pressure acts. And I love seeing a big man do pressure acts.
Yeah, pressure acts are good.
I just thought it was really good to see him back to form. He was probably, after Shuey went off, took over the role of captain for that game. So, he's a brilliant footballer. We know it.
Don't get
but
me
they've
wrong.
had some really absolute rough housings the last few weeks. So it was good to see him have a chance to actually play his role and play it really well. So Good from him.
That's probably one I missed out on a little here. What are we on 4?
4.
I'm giving my 4 to Jake Lever.
Yep, he was in my special mentions this week.
Wow, we've gone way off the
We
boil.
have. I had Jake Lever. I did this week a bit different. I did a list of players that I all thought deserved votes.
Yeah.
And then I kind of rounded down from there, and he didn't make the cut.
Do you not do that every week?
I do. I do.
I do that every week.
But differently. I did it differently this way. I don't know how to say it.
all right.
But, yeah.
I was going to say, if you're not doing that, you should probably be doing that.
It's obviously what I'm doing. It's where I got my special mentions from, the ones that don't make the list.
Jake Lever, 20 disposals, 10 intercept possessions, 10 marks, 5 rebounds, a couple of 1%ers, and he was pretty sure down back for them.
How good do they look with him in the team?
Heaps better.
Obviously, May is the other one. Together they're better.
Those two work really well together, but I think taking just one of them out makes
absolutely.
a difference.
But yeah, he was brilliant again. He's had a couple of really, really good games this year. So, and I love watching him play at his best.
He's got a high-ranking
electric.
moustache.
His 50-metre penalty was confusing to him and me. I'm still not sure what it was for.
How are you confused by that?
It was a little weird.
He was in the protected area.
Yeah, I agree.
He was warned. He didn't leave. He ran forward 50.
Yeah. It didn't really cost a goal, though. I don't think it was.
It was going to be a goal.
10 metres out,
Yeah.
pretty much directly in front. My 4...
Does it
and we'll
rhyme?
go on to your 5 and it ends. Yes, it is Darcy Moore.
That's my 5.
Is your 5? Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought it might be. He was brilliant. In a game, especially in that last quarter, which was really tight.
I thought from the get-go
Oh,
to
no,
the end.
but I mean, in that game, all over, he was great. He had 8 spoils.
He was marking balls that he shouldn't have been able to get near.
He had 3 score launches from the back half. He had all 3 of his one-on-ones, 7 marks, 5 of those were intercepts, and 3 rebound 50s. Forget the fact that he had 17 at 95%, which is also outrageous. That's just a great defensive effort. And I feel like his speech after the game almost boosts him a little as well.
Yep. Yep.
It was... I heard it and I was like, that's a genuine captain. He is one of the best captains in the AFL. He's shown that already this year. He's so composed at all times, anytime he's speaking to the media or the players. That was a brilliant game. The goal after the siren really ruined how close the game was.
Yeah.
It's like Max Rook in the 09 grand final putting out 2 goals.
You didn't have to do that one.
It kind of ruins the scoreline. It doesn't. You look back on things and you see the 6 or 7 point difference. You go, what a great game. And 13 for some reason you feel less so. But that was a brilliant game. And I think... moving away slightly from Moore, which we can move back to, I'm seeing a lot of talk about Essendon, having 6 goals kicked against them in the last quarter to lose that game. I was like, yeah, but Collingwood had 7 goals kicked against them the quarter before for Essendon to be in the position they were.
Yeah.
It was swings and roundabouts. There wasn't it was just all Essendon until that point, and then they faded away.
Yeah, but I guess what it does show is that Collingwood had the time and energy to bring that back.
Oh, absolutely.
And Essendon did not have the energy to defend that
Yeah.
lead, which says a fair bit about where those two are at. I feel like sometimes it's easier to peg back a lead than it is to defend it. And obviously Essendon have been in and out of finals all over the place.
And Collingwood just have this faith now. Their confidence when they're chasing those leads must be incredible. And
even just seeing the way some of their players interacted with each other after Ginnivan kicked a goal, ran to the bench, you see him and Ash Johnson just celebrating with each other, even though they were still 2 goals down.
And Dacos's final term was one of the best quarters of footy I've seen.
Crazy.
It's funny where one of his biggest criticisms he doesn't get enough contested ball. There was one where he picked it up in a pack, spun through a tackle, and kicked it inside 50. And then followed that up moments later by just kicking 2 goals in a row to get in front.
But that's what's scary is because I definitely still think that he does get
a lot
fair
of
few cheap possessions.
For sure.
But he's a second-year player. The ability to grow and actually be able to do that himself is terrifying.
I was saying... I saw a tweet earlier today saying that it's baffling that people still think that. And I said, well, I think the funny thing is that it's true to an extent that a lot of his ball does come from that. But
that's what he does with it.
How good do you have to be in your second year to be the most trusted distributor in a team that made a prelim last year? He is the most trusted ball user in that team after 30 games. They look for him, and it's because what he does with it is devastating.
Yeah.
He's a great decision maker. His kicking skills are elite, and he's fast, lightning fast. So... he's just a jet, and obviously he can't get votes because he played so much midfield.
He's
forward.
not a defender. Simple as that.
Yeah, and it's not about playing in the back line. It's a defender.
When I see him get more than 3 tackles a game, he can be a defender.
Yeah, and it's funny I'm saying the comparison to Sheasel because it's really funny that people are saying that Dacos is better. So at the same point last year, Dacos was playing kind of like Sheasel is now. Dacos only elevated to this freak stuff this year. Last year was just a very good year from a young player.
Yeah.
This year it is a whole different level. And also, just stop comparing players. It's one of the most boring things
She's
to
just
football.
played 6 games of AFL footy. Leave him alone.
Absolutely. Anyway,
Darcy Moore, great.
Brilliant.
If you're listening to the podcast, sorry for talking about Dicos for 30 minutes, but that's what it feels like to watch AFL these days.
It does. I feel like...
I think, wasn't it Buckley who called Jack Sinclair the Nick Dicos of St Kilda?
So stupid. I saw someone basically in response to that. I saw a tweet the other day that was like, this Darcy Moore has a bit of a salver about him. And I'm sure Nathan Buckley didn't see it.
Buckley!
I'm sure Nathan Buckley didn't see it, but I hope he did.
Still smelling his own farts, I reckon. Anyway, that's the votes.
These are the votes.
My honourable mention. I'm giving one honourable mention.
I've got 2 honourable mentions.
Because
from the same team.
I don't know if they count as a defender.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just giving a mention to Lockie Weller for being good. That's it.
Yeah, I had Lockie Weller there as well. He played a lot of wing this week.
Lots of wing. But
he was good.
He's good.
He's very good. It's weird when... I actually wanted to go into that. I don't know if you know this. Do you know that there's only one club that Gold Coast have a positive win-loss record over?
Oh, don't say it's Carlton.
No, it's not. It's North Melbourne.
Okay,
and it was positive going into this week. And I find it really funny that it's almost as if North made a bargain with the footy gods back in like 2009. And it was like, you don't have to relocate to the Gold Coast. But the team that does move there will beat you almost every time. And it's worse at Metricon. It's 8-4 up there.
Damn. It's a fortress.
Against North, yeah. I learned that before the game.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
And it was obviously reinforced knowing that I really thought North had a good chance. I tipped Gold Coast.
I talked them up. I have a group chat with a couple of old work friends of mine, and they know I do this podcast. They sometimes ask me for tips, and I talk North Melbourne up. I was like, it's Goldie's 300th. He's a legend of their club, and he will be in all of...
Hall of Famer, yep.
All-time Hall of Famer. But no, they couldn't do it for him, and that is... dreadful. It was a bit of a dreadful effort.
Pretty embarrassing.
Yeah.
And Sheasel was just gone. Curtailed completely out of that game.
He had a hip knock, I believe,
Did he?
at one point, and I think he had a hand injury last week.
He was still running around though. I noticed that. Did you see, speaking of hip knocks, Shuey not only twisted his ankle, but also did his hamstring?
I shouldn't laugh, but the fact that he got a knock and that caused him to do his hamstring.
They're like, the club is also treating his hamstring while he is off having his ankle.
It's a shame.
repaired.
Shuey is...
He's still leading per, on average games this year. He's still leading centre clearances.
For them?
For the AFL.
Oh, really?
Average, because obviously he hasn't played every game.
Yeah.
But it just shows how important he is when he's playing for them. And you just wonder what they can do, or if there's nothing, if he's just at that point where the soft tissue injuries are so damaging.
I don't know what his contract status is, but this has to be
close to his last year.
Nurse him to 250. Make sure he plays it, because he deserves that.
Now, this one has obviously, I think, been done to death already. But I do want to bring it up about that beer Freo fans made. I think it was a Freo supporter podcast to mock Rory Lobb. And there's one thing to not spell it with 2 B's. The lobster is 2 B's because his name is Lobb.
Maybe they were fearing a lawsuit.
Maybe. But then to lose so emphatically.
It's been so long I almost forgot about this.
BT brings him a beer in the rooms.
That's great.
And there's just photos of Lobb just posing with it after the game. He must have loved that. I think the best part was, I know he didn't kick many goals, but he had his chances. He was good. He was pretty good. That's the best game he's played this year for the Bulldogs.
Decent.
I'm not sure what to read into the game, though. I'm not sure whether the Bulldogs played really well, which I thought that looked like they did.
I think the Bulldogs were going about an 8, and Freo were continuing to do their terrible run so far, but with the added caveat of spending all of their energy and focus on Rory
Lobb. That moment.
The goal.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm glad that footy shows have been
highlighting they really picked it up.
Because when it happened, we were like...
We talked about it. Hopefully someone brings this up, because that was terrible.
It was awful.
And I'm glad it got a run on...
should never have been able to kick that
It got a run on the round so far. It got a run on the Sunday footy show. Because, there were 6 of them on 2 Bulldogs players on the forward flank. And it just meant they were all out of position. No one was ready for the ball to drop.
I mean, in reality... Hugo Hagan probably should
kick
that
the goal.
through any of the
He's
sticks.
taken more than 20 shots on goal this year for, I think, 8 goals. So, I think that obviously there's a work in progress there, and it should come together, because some of the stuff he does is incredible. But it's just basic team defence to be in the right position, and there were so many parts of that game where they were so focused on Lobb that it was baffling. I think my favourite part of that, though, was when Rory Lobb lined up on goal and missed. And the cameraman panned to, I think, the one section of crowd that didn't care. Like, they were just sitting there like...
No, my favourite was the two people standing backwards. With
Oh,
their backs
facing
to
the wrong
camera.
way.
It's so embarrassing. You think no one had ever left Freo before.
Oh, but also, he played 170-odd games for GWS before he went to Freo.
You've gone a bit high there. He hasn't played 170 games for GWS.
It's probably not that many, but he played more.
It's like 50.
He's played 170 total. I think he played like 90 for GWS, or 70.
What are you talking about? No way.
He's 30. He's played a fair few games.
Rory Lobb's played 74 for
70 for
GWS,
GWS.
66 for Freo.
Exaggerated. Put a 1 in front of it. But he played more games for GWS than Freo. They didn't draft him. He gave them an extra season to what he wanted to give them,
Which
and
got them
played
into
probably his
finals.
best year of football. And then got the trade that he wanted eventually. Like, it was so odd. They are a strange football club. Freo. It's obviously what Zero Flags does to a fan base.
Maybe it's just the byproduct, and it's not Lobb's fault. Maybe it is the effect of Jesse Hogan and Cam McCarthy. All of these, I don't know, I said McCarthy. All of these great white hopes, the forwards they've brought across from other clubs who haven't performed, been dropped, been in the media, and left. Maybe it's
the fear of Jackson.
Yeah, maybe it's that. But if I was Luke Jackson and I'm seeing the way they're treating someone who dared to want to go back to Melbourne, rough.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say at least Jackson's from here, but so was Lobb.
Lots
So,
from
like,
Perth.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know what to think about Freo. Look, it would be different if they hadn't performed the way they did last year. I think it'd be easier to look at their list as young and developing.
Yeah.
But they had such a strong year last year, and players who had such a strong year last year just aren't having the same impact on games that they were. I feel like the core is still there. Like, the most of last year they didn't have Fife. So they played the best of their football with the midfield they're currently running. Mundy's the real...
Mundy's the loss.
He was such a distributor.
They were able to turn their uncompromising defence into attack last
Yes,
year.
they were.
They weren't scoring high, but they were scoring. Whereas now I feel like they're really struggling to put on scores when they need to. They've lost that middle ground.
Their defence this year
Mundy.
looks like what they made other teams' defences last year look like, trying to get out of 50.
Yeah.
They have no idea where they're going. There's no structure past that.
I just think about that one, the Geelong one.
Yeah, that was the
where
worst one.
From
Yeah.
behind the goals, you see them pass it to about 20
And
players.
they had just such a great wall set up.
Yeah.
They just couldn't get through it and turned it over. It was a goal.
They're making every team look like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very strange. And it's not even the other team's structure half the time. Their ball movement's so slow. And the decision making, well, it's also slow. Like, that's the thing, that they're not picking the target when it's there. And the slowness shouldn't be in a young team. Like, you shouldn't be seeing that from a team that has such speed and skill.
And it's interesting because you've seen great success from teams that have changed coach and just gone, let's kick dangerously and let's run. And it makes a huge difference. And I think Matthew Lloyd said it best when Michael Voss and Justin Longmuir are kind of just stuck in their ways at the moment, and they both need to
learn how to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
I think that was such a big part of it. Didn't work the couple of years before, but that was such a big part of Geelong's turnaround.
They went from a long down the line marking team.
They pulled the trigger some of the time, and now it's just the game plan. The game plan is just go as much as you can, and it works. Like, you've got to trust your players, and I think the players. Collingwood's a great example. Like, the confidence of knowing that if you get it wrong, you've got the coach's backing, so it doesn't matter. Amazing, because you'll just see some of the most brilliant pieces of play pulled off. The last goal that Collingwood kicked, I think it was the last one, or not the one after, the one before that, was just such an incredible burst of play. Like, they do that like no other team does, where they just get over the top. It's been a scrimmage, and then suddenly they're all loose because they've got legs. And when you watch any team do that, it's exciting. And then you see Freo is obviously the worst one, and Carlton took a lot longer. And I feel like half the team wanted to do it, and half of them were stuck in their set plays. It just looks so boring. Even when the score comes, you just like, it just took so long, and it was so painful. There was a couple moments, I think you would have heard me frustrated. Carlton ended up getting a goal out of them. But I was just like, what are you doing? Like, where is the...
frustrated.
Yeah, I know, but like, it was like, what there were so many other ways you could have got inside 50 that would have got you there 30 seconds faster and resulted in that same goal.
It's incredibly frustrating. And I mean, sometimes you can put it down to a lack of personnel. We talked about it earlier with a lot of Carlton's run being out.
Yeah.
But I feel like Freo have a lot of run in that midfield. I know Sarong's not the fastest. I know Brayshaw's not the fastest, but they're not stodgy.
Slow. Yeah.
I mean, O'Meara's not fast.
No,
and
that's
neither
true.
is Brody. But that's why you rotate them in and out.
Yeah. Well, you talked about the rotation issue last week with Gold Coast.
Yes.
And now they've lost Miller for a month.
That's going to be interesting. It's just going to be Fiorini in to take his numbers.
Yeah.
They'll just swap one player in for him.
And that's another stale one, isn't it? Like, and that was the problem. Their ball movement looked good against Geelong. And for probably half a game against Freo. I don't know.
That's because there was no Colo. That's why.
Don't know why at half time against Freo they decided to just stop with the good ball movement. Weller's a huge part of that, though. You need a distributor. We talked about that.
Yep.
And he's brilliant for that. But yeah, I do worry about Gold Coast and that midfield. But if there's anyone they can beat at the moment, it's Richmond.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Speaking of Colo type roles, though, Broadback for Richmond this week will be big for their
He's back
structure.
this week. Yeah, it should be over.
So that'll help them out a lot, just in general for shoring up behind the footy. And I don't think players like a Chandler would have got off the leash like they did. Had they actually had a few of their defenders back there last week.
Chandler or Chandler?
Chandler?
I don't know.
Not sure.
Either way, he looks pretty good.
He does, doesn't he? He just seems to play that same role every week. Like
that stupid mid-sized forward that Melbourne keeps seeming to picking out of nowhere.
And that Van Ruyen.
Yeah.
Silent all game, and then it pops up to have one of the best last quarters.
They were going to sub him.
Just smashed it home. Speaking of players that got subbed, Nathan Kruger, the never-ending experiment at Geelong that has turned into a never-ending experiment at Collingwood.
I don't know why he played. Billy Frampton looks really good in the ruck for them.
Yeah, I think they just wanted more height in general because Mistay was out. And they moved Frampton forward. But yeah, there was a few moments where his physicality was good because we know he's a massive lad.
Yeah, he was a bit aggressive.
He made a few shocking mistakes and got subbed out, and they decided they didn't need the height. And they clearly didn't.
He was like a supplementary pick of some sort.
Yeah,
wasn't he
was an academy pick. So Carlton had the two like extra picks, but they were...
It's safe to say McAdam's the better of those two.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Geelong traded a pick to get Kruger because he was part of the academy.
Yeah.
He's, I think, Andrew McLeod's nephew. But yeah, it came through, and I always thought he was a prospect down back, but had a bit of that ability to give away a free kick or do a Sam Frost and just do something. You just go, what are you doing?
I looked at Frost for a little bit in my votes.
He was... I thought that too, but then I remembered some of the things I watched him do, and I went, I can't do it. I can't.
I think, I don't know who was commentating. Was it Dwayne Russell? I don't remember. Said something like, Hawthorn fans wait to applaud Sam Frost until they see where the disposals ended up.
He's a decision-making king, Sam Frost. I never know what he's going to do with it.
He's fun to watch, though.
But his highlight of his career was Petruccelli. Just ripping his shirt off of him because Petruccelli thought he was faster than him was just an amazing thing to watch. Incredible.
Good old Frosty the Go Man.
I actually got 8 tips right this week, which compared to my normal felt really nice.
It's not bad. It's a shame about the one you got wrong.
Yeah, the one I got wrong was Carlton. And look, I stand by if Mackay had kicked one of those 2 goals, I might have got that right.
Yeah.
That really just summed up Carlton's half of footy, I think.
Goal kicking is a problem.
It's becoming an issue.
If you don't, and just across the AFL, if you aren't kicking your regulation goals, you're not going to win games. I know that seems easy, like in brain to say, kick goals, win games, but
you're right. Geelong last year's a great example of that. Melbourne as well. Melbourne weren't, and then when they started kicking the standard ones, they started winning games. And it's a difference between pot shots from the pocket, but. Yeah, some of the shots Carlton took on the night were ones that you have to kick to win games, and they weren't able to.
Yep.
I think that was true for Essendon as well on the weekend. They were in the first half, and then when the pressure was on, they weren't. I think Jake Stringer didn't even have a touch in the last quarter after dominating that first half. So, it's a vital thing. And I always find when teams do the, if we kick straight, we would have won. It's a skill of football, isn't it? Like that's a...
Kick straight then.
Yeah, exactly. Like... There's also the fact that a lot of times when you see the scoreboard and it's like 12-17 versus 17-12, it's like because one team is better at defending and it's forced that team into the pockets.
Or is rushing things through. It's not always a case of missing. There's more to say to that. But when you see, there's a couple of games against GWS this year, I think Essendon kicked 8-20 and Carlton kicked 9-18 or something. Like
They were as bad kicking.
yeah.
Yeah. I obviously watched those games, and that I remember, especially the Essendon one. I was like, "Are you just going to put them away, or are you just going to let them stay in this game forever?" I thought GWS were going to do them from how badly they were kicking during that game. It was utterly incredible.
It's the easiest way to put teams away is to just be able to kick
Yeah,
straight.
if you kick 6 goals 1 in the first quarter instead of 3 goals 4, it just makes a massive difference.
Yep.
I do like. I will say that currently between 3rd and 11th is 1 game.
Yeah.
I think I'm adding Freo to my teams that can't do it list. I think I've seen enough
It's a bit early, but I
to
can
be disappointing from me. And I think we had GWS in there as well. I'm not saying that Freo and GWS can't make finals. I think they could, but I just don't think they have the consistency or confidence to go up against a powerhouse team.
Wait. So is this teams that you think could win it, or teams that you think could make finals?
Well, I'd write GWS out of finals, I think.
Okay.
And probably Freo. I think at the moment Freo.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't see them doing it. So
It'll be interesting to revisit that. I'm
Yeah.
not talking about who I think can win and won't win.
I reckon that
because-
top 11 is our batch. Currently, that's Bulldogs, Geelong, Sydney outside of the 8. And then the current teams in the 8 are obviously there with 6 games in the bag. So, but it's always got the extra game this season, which adds a whole different level
does
of
change things.
circumstances. And we haven't even talked about it. Tasmanian team coming in 2027.
Huh? We're getting one of those?
Yeah, it's the funding got confirmed. It's going to get announced on Sunday, which means it's being announced twice.
Do we
I saw that it was
do
like-
we know the year they're expected to come in?
2027. Yeah, so it's really funny because it was like
Start your rebuild now.
Yeah, well, that's why people are saying Hawthorn's done a really smart thing, right? Because they're going to get their draft picks now and next year, and not in the years that the draft is going to be compromised by the new team coming in. But it's... Look, I have, obviously, hesitations against there being an extra team. I have hesitations against there being a bye week.
By week? By every week?
Yes, I mean a bye every week. But obviously, Tassie deserves a team.
Mm-hmm.
They love football. They deserve a team.
It's too hard. I don't think the AFL can cut a team or move a team or merge a team. There's too much in football now.
Which
to
means
do
there
that.
needs to be a 20th licence.
There does.
Probably to the Northern Territory.
That would make sense, but I don't think it could happen.
No.
Then I think there's a game scheduled to be played in the Northern Territory this year that they're cancelling.
And there's also the issue of the same with Tasmania. They didn't have a stadium up to scratch, so they got the funding for the stadium, which Albanese told the press today that was going to be announced on Sunday, which is why we heard that Andrew Dillon has been announced as the new CEO, which is why we know Tasmania is going to get a team. So the stadium's only going to have 26,000. But they will play games both there and at York Park, where Hawthorn play their games.
Yeah.
They'll rotate. Bigger crowds will play at the main stadium, other ones at York Park. Great for Tassie as a state, great for football in general. I think we've actually genuinely seen a filter off of talent in the last 10 years from Tasmania, which probably could have been avoided had we had a team there earlier. There's just not as many players from down there as there, I feel like, were not too long ago.
No.
The Colladashnies are from there. Nankervis is Tasmanian. Obviously, the Rewalts are from down there. And Cowan is
Lucky
Tasmanian.
Cowan's Tasmanian.
But there's definitely a lot less than there.
Ian Jones might be as
that
well.
used to be. So, fingers crossed it all works out. But it will be really interesting to see how it goes. Rumours are they're going to be called the Devils, which I find a bit boring.
No, Devils and Demons, you can't have both. Just copy the basketball.
Yeah, I don't do the cricket though. Hurricanes, which you don't even have in the Southern Hemisphere. But yeah, good old Tassie. I didn't like the... James Sicily, I think, is he from down there?
Yeah, James Sicily is Tasmanian.
Yeah, I didn't love his sentiment when asked about it. I don't think that Hawthorn's major sponsor, Tasmania, would have loved it either. He said he doesn't see himself playing down there. There's not much to do. Doesn't know why anyone want to live there.
I'll give you the list. There's from Adelaide, Chase Jones. We talked about Lockie Cowan.
Yep.
Jeremy Howe and Brodie Mychek are both from Tasmania. Jai Menzies, Andrew Phillips, Alex Pearce. I didn't know that.
Didn't know that either. Yeah.
Colo, Lockie Weller.
Yep.
Ben Brown, Aaron Hall, Taron Thomas. He's probably... Oh, maybe they could pick him up. It's a good start, right? Ryan Mansell, Robbie Fox, Liam Jones.
Yep.
And there's 4 Tasmanian umpires.
Oh.
And there are a slew of AFLW
Yeah.
Tasmanian players.
So look, it'll be good for grassroots footy. Obviously, there's like an ongoing commitment to build that up. I'm assuming what they'll do is do what GWS and Gold Coast did and put them in the VFL for a couple of years.
Oh, good. There'd be no buy in the VFL.
That'd be nice. So we'll just get one in the AFL the year after. But yeah,
Brendan Gale's from Tasmania.
Really?
There you go.
Oh, maybe he should have been CEO. I don't know how that will work though. Like, I don't remember how it worked honestly because I was 16.
Well, when we had the buy.
No, when the Suns and GWS played in the VFL. Did the kids play in the VFL? Was that the 16-year-olds?
I don't remember that. Picks? I remember them being in the VFL and then they had both teams the next year.
Well, they had one team each year.
No. I mean,
they had
VFL and then they had AFL and VFL.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Well, NEFL back then.
NEFL.
Yeah. Now it's all VFL.
Might have been Quaffle at that point. Before it became NEFL.
Yeah. Now it's just all VFL. It's called the VFL. There's teams from 4 states. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Don't question it. Surely you just
awful.
change it to like the Eastern Seaboard Football League or something, don't you? The VFL wouldn't stand for that.
No, the
VFL
has to exist. The year it didn't happen, there were fucking riots in the streets.
So
as long as the Bull Ants are in it, I don't care.
Oh, I got to keep the Bull Ants. I was talking about them the other day at when I was doing a game for Champion Data. We were just checking the VFL scores in general, just to check how AFL listed all, especially previous AFL listed players. We love having a look at that. And Bull Ants are fighting this year. It's really good to see that they are fighting, and I haven't seen them get blown away once. Every week they're in it. Not really, they're in it. It's like 5 goals. That's what happens when you tell a team that they've got a license 6 days before a season starts.
They beat Sydney's VFL team. That's all that matters to me.
Like, good on them. Sydney's VFL team's not exactly brilliant.
We don't talk about. You didn't have to bring that part up.
Hey, but basically a team of country footballers can beat you, you're really struggling. Where do they play?
Where do they play?
Bull Ants, yeah. What's their home ground?
Preston, right?
I have no idea.
It's a great question. I should know.
I wonder if Eagles are going to give up on the same way Freo did. I wonder if they're going to give up on having a...
Preston City Oval.
Okay.
Because they used to be Preston and they became Bull Ants and they became Northern Blues
Bullets.
and then...
Northern Blues and Northern Bullets. Yeah. I wonder if West Coast are going to give up on having a waffle team in the same way Freo have.
They probably should.
Because this is 2 years in a row. Well, last year they did have to forfeit games.
Look, if they sort out their injuries, it won't be a problem.
Yeah, but like I feel like Freo understood that it's not worth the headache, right? Like, you'd rather be able to just rest someone or 2 people for a week if you've already got an injury list than have to... I saw them bringing up Lewis Jetta this week apparently as well, trying to get him to play. I don't know if Schofield's going to play again. But he played forward.
I did see I saw a Reddit post where someone said, "Yeah, my old teacher was given a call to come out for West Coast." I don't know if he's still fit enough, but
I rate that highly. Yeah, so Lewis Jetta called this week. Schofield took a pack mark, kicked a goal, tried to fight his own teammate, realised it was his teammate, hugged him instead.
That was really funny. I saw that. Because I had to watch the highlight because
there was one earlier in the game though. We'll look at he kicked one from like outside 50. Should have passed it. Absolutely should have. But it was clearly just a first quarter, moments back on the footy field, bombed one, and it's done the reverse Monfries. It's landed 10 metres out directly in front, no one in the goal square, and bounced straight backwards. Granted, he probably would have hit the roof at Marvel. He kicked it that high. But yeah, good on him. Had 12 touches, 5 hit-outs.
The reverse Monfries is when you never play for a free kick.
Let's freeze.
Let's freeze. We're wrapping it up on that.
All right, yeah, that's the night. Thanks for listening. It's nice to have no Thursday game this week, so we'll actually pop this out today. You got a day to go, there's no football tonight. And then tomorrow football's on again. So tomorrow when it comes out, obviously not for us. Tomorrow.
As always, we are available on the internet, on the podcast apps, and you can personally send me money at paypal.com/...
Give out your email. Okay.
You can bleep it out, right?
Put money put some money in the Ko-Fi wallet if you're generous. If not, just listening is nice enough. Click subscribe. Follow us on something. I don't know. Probably not Twitter. That is mostly rambling.
Yeah, don't go to Twitter.
Facebook website, Spotify.
If you can find my Tumblr and follow it, I will pay you money.
Yeah, we'll give you 50 cents.
Don't do that.
Thanks for listening. This has been The Back Pocket, and we will see you next week.
Bye.